Simon Jones, great to have you on. Lovely to see you again. And tell us first, going way back, who were your inspirations as a fast bowler, other than, of course, your father, who I know played for England? But was there anyone that you saw on telly as a kid growing up that you kind of modelled yourself on?
There was one, Alan Donald. I just love the fact is the way he bowled. His nickname White Lightning. The pace he bowled at, the way he went about his business. I'll always remember that incident at Trent Bridge with Michael Atherton. It's just brought hairs, the hairs on your arms, up on the back of your neck. And they say to never meet your hero. And I met him at Edgbaston. I was 17, 18. I'd been dragged along to be 12th man for the first team at Glamorgan. So I'd bowl in the morning, bowl at lunch and bowl at tea, just to get my overs in. And I was bowling in the morning and I felt someone stood next to me at the top of my mark, and it was him. And Alan worked with me for about 30 minutes. And I was in awe. And he was giving me tips because we had a similar action in the sense we relied on our front arm so heavily, because I used to really pull it down. And he was saying, as long as you get that right and going towards the batter, you'll be okay. He said, you get it wrong when it goes away from you. So he spent 30 minutes with me and I was just, I was on cloud nine.
Wow, what a story.
And now he's unreal. Unreal. He didn't have to do that. That's the biggest thing for me. He was probably doing his own preparation anyway, but he found time in his session and in his preparation to just come and spend time with me.
And he was a proper gent, actually, wasn't he? I mean, although he was a terrifying bowler, he was a proper, he was a lovely guy, actually. Like many fast bowlers, like you, in fact, aggressive and feisty on the field, and actually very polite and normal off it. I mean, he was a lovely guy, actually, wasn't he?
I think once you cross that whitewash on the outfield, then I think you have to change, because one is your job as a fast bowler to intimidate and get after the opposition. So I think if you're on the field and you're too nice, then it's not going to work. It's just not the way sport works, I don't think, anyway, from my experiences. So I think we've all got a little bit of that side to us. I think as any professional sports person, I think you have to have that side to you.
Yeah. I wish I had, actually. I wish I'd had it, but that was probably my biggest weakness, really, as I wasn't aggressive enough going over the white line. So how did the Donald influence you?
It was almost to a point where when I was growing up, I was from the age of 12, I think. I just wanted to bowl as fast as I could. And you do hear of coaches saying, right, let's slow you down, get your accuracy and your control, and then build your pace back up. My dad was like, no, rubbish. You bowl as fast as you can. I want you to get used to bowling as fast as you can. Get used to that role in the team. And as you get older and you refine your action, then the control will come. And you learn your body, you learn your action, etc. So when I watched like Alan, he was all right. He was a very wily, intelligent bowler for me. He wouldn't bowl flat out on a dead like wicket, which was a bit spongy and had nothing in it for him. Then he'd use his skills. So that was one of the things I learned from him, was at times you have to rein it in and use your head, because it's pointless otherwise. You're just going to wear yourself out. But I think watching him grow up, I just wanted to be like him and bowl as quickly as him, because he bowled 1995, maybe possibly quicker at times. So he was a massive influence on my attitude to fast bowling and trying to bowl as fast as you possibly can.
And where did you learn the art of swinging the ball and reverse swinging the ball? Did that come gradually over time, or was there one person who helped you with that?
That was... Well, I refined myself in the academy in 2001 with Rod Marsh. What a legend he was. He was a huge influence on me. I've always been very shy. Like when I first went into the Glamorgan dressing rooms, a lot of them would kind of take the mickey and ask me to speak. They call me speak because I was brought up by my parents to speak when spoken to, especially with elders and more senior people. So when I went into that Glamorgan dressing room, I was surrounded by legends: Matthew Maynard, Hugh Morris, Crofty, Adrian Dale, Steve James, Anthony Cottee. So I was of the opinion, if they speak to me, I'll speak back to them. So when I went on the academy, Rod kind of had this setup where we'd start at 6 a.m. and finish at 7 p.m. But throughout, it wasn't just cricket and fitness, it was public speaking. It was doing things to get you out of your comfort zone. And as you know, there's nothing worse than speaking in front of a load of your mates. You'd rather speak in front of a load of strangers, wouldn't you? But say when you were doing your public speaking, you might have to talk about a pen. I've got Graham Swan, Rob Key, Alex Tudor, Nicky Peng, all these guys in the front row watching you. It's nigh on impossible, isn't it? Because you're going to start laughing. But we did these sessions constantly throughout the academy. And then I started working with Troy Cooley. Now, I'd say he was one of the biggest influences after Rod, because he took me aside one day and he said, "Jonah, you're not going to open a bowling. You might do it at Glamorgan every now and then, but if you get into the England side, you're not going to open a bowling. Just get that in your head now. You're going to come on first or second change with, say, Fred. So you're going to have to bowl the hard overs in the middle of a game. When the game is going away from us, the wicket's flat, we're going to have to find a role for you in a sense that you have to do something different." So when we were netting, he'd say, "Right, I want you to use the oldest ball you can find in that bag, and you bowl with that." And the rest of the lads like Steve Kirby, Tudes, Tremlett, were all going in, and Steve Harmison were getting the hardest, newest cherry they could find. And I was using one that looked like it had been chewed by a dog. And that's why I learned. And I ended up learning the art of reverse swing. And I spent 6 months doing it. And throughout the whole process of Rod's kind of regime and working with Troy, playing out in Australia, we did a tour of the country and played against all the different states. We smashed everyone because we, to be fair, we had a heck of a squad. So I came back, and even the Glamorgan lads were saying, "You've changed for the better. You've become," my dad said, almost like you've become a man. And that was a huge compliment to Rod and his team, Wayne Phillips and Troy Cooley, that they kind of integrated us and made us better people. It was a tough slog, don't get me wrong. It's the fittest I've ever been in my entire life, and probably the most confident. So that's where I learned the art of reverse swing and conventional swing, just through Troy and Rod.
And what when you say the art of reverse swing, can you kind of boil that down a bit? What is the art of reverse swing? I mean, is it just holding the ball a particular way, or is it using those? Because a lot of people think that reverse swing is mainly in swing to right-handers, but actually you and others have made a good use, or did make a good use, of the outswinger as well to the right-handers. So is it about manipulating the type of swing, or is it about, you know, the angle of the ball that you're holding? I mean, what is the art of reverse swing?
For me, it's the condition of the ball. I think that is the most important thing when you want to bowl a reverse swing. It's got to be dry as a bone. You keep the one side really shiny, so it's on your trousers. The other side will naturally get rough through people throwing it in from the boundary, scuffing it onto the square, looking at hitting wicket ends if you can. It's difficult because you might scuff the shiny side up at times, but you just have to keep on working on the ball. But the biggest thing for me in terms of reverse swing was the length you bowled. I think people get carried away with bowling that magic Yorker. And it looks amazing when it's done. You look at Wacky Younis when he used to bowl his reverse swing and Yorkers, and Wazim. Those guys are legends of reverse swing. But for me, it was about, right, you still got to hit top of off, and you use the Yorker as a surprise ball. You can still use your bumper. Got to keep them honest, because if they're thinking it's reversing, they're expecting everything on a full length. No, it doesn't work like that. So the art of it is sticking to your guns, hitting top of off, and then you can use the others as a surprise to catch the batsman out. And it's surprising how, like in 2005 with the Australian batters, it surprised me how well we did against them because they had such an experienced side. You know, you look at that top six, and then your Gilchrist coming in at 7. It's ridiculous order. I thought they might have coped with it better than they did, just through experience of playing it everywhere in the world, India, Pakistan, etc. So that was we have to give ourselves a massive pat on the back for how well we did, myself and Fred, with the reverse swinging during that series. But yeah, for me, the art is keeping the ball dry, hitting your lengths, and then use the other magic balls as surprises.
And were you conscious of the fact that probably you released the ball not perfectly seam up naturally? And, therefore the ball came down perhaps at a slight angle, which is something I identified because that happened to me as well. I mean, I started bowling reverse swing in 1987 before anyone had ever heard of the term.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know what it was. I mean, I ran up the bowl to hold the ball for a conventional outswing on a dry Lord's pitch mid-afternoon, and it suddenly went the other way. And I thought, okay, well, I'll just use it then. And we didn't know what to call it. But part of the reason that was happening was because I think I was letting go of the ball, slightly at a slight angle, the seam at a slight angle. So were you conscious of that was an advantage you had as well?
I didn't intentionally angle the seam or anything. I just ran up with it normal, maybe just came out my finger slightly. But I wasn't aware of that fact. I think if you look at the Michael Clarke ball, the seam comes down bowled upright. At times, you might try and change the angle of the seam to try and increase the swing. But for me, it was, I think because I'd done it for so long with the academy, every session and every game, it almost came like second nature to me. I was so comfortable bowling with the old ball. So when I came to using a new ball, it was like a treat. It was like Christmas because the extra bounce you get, the pace off the pitch, it was great. But I was so happy bowling with an old ball. It didn't bother me one bit. Some of the lads would hate it, but I loved it.
Well, that's great. Great to hear. I once met Imran Khan. Slight digression here, but he although he played for Sussex, he used to live in London. And he used to come to Lords for nets. And one day, just join Middlesex lads and come and join in our nets. And one day turned up, and we just had a terrible box of balls. They were really shit. And he just said, and we were complaining, saying, "Has anybody got a decent ball to bowl with?" And he said, "No, you just give me this. Give me the worst ball in the bag." And he picked out a ball, like you said, which a dog would have chewed, and he made it bend all over the place. And obviously he did that with some illegal methods. But he was very good at utilizing it, obviously, even legally as well. So just sort of looking at your test career as a whole, I mean, obviously you came into that Ashes test in Brisbane. I guess you don't really want to think much about it, but you started well, took an early wicket after a long sort of stint in the field. Then obviously you got injured and had to come home. I mean, how devastating was that?
It was tough. It's one of those scenarios, Husey, where you kind of gone from, like, I'd nicked Langer off, so you're buzzing, thinking you got one of the better batters in the world out. And Matthew Hayden, as I was walking back to my mark, said, "Congratulations, mate. You had the leading wicket taker in the 2002 Ashes." I was like, here we go. So then, obviously, we had lunch, and we came out after lunch, and I was raring to go. I felt good. And then I chased that ball to the boundary and slid. The annoying thing was, in the build-up to the game, we'd played against Queensland at the Allen Border Oval, I think it was called. Beautiful ground. And the outfield was like glass. You slid on it to pick the ball up when you field it, and then you just carried on going. It was wonderful. So before the test match, we'd only done a bit of high catching to get used, because the seats are a different colour, aren't they? The yellow and maroon. So Fletch was pretty keen on, right, lads, you've got to get used to these seats because you might lose the ball, blah, blah, blah. We didn't do any real ground fielding or note. So I just went in thinking, right, this ground is exactly the same as any other ground in Australia. But then, obviously, after the accident, I've gone to hospital. But we found out that Ricky Ponting had refused, apparently. I'm not sure if this is true. But he'd refused to do a fielding video there for the ACB because he said this outfield isn't conducive to what you want me to do. So that was frustrating in a sense that we hadn't found out about this kind of the nature of the outfield and the type of grass it was and soil it was. But it's one of those things. I'm a big believer in things happen for a reason. I had 16 to 18 months out the game. Give me more time to work on fitness, work on my bowling. I didn't come back quite as fast as I was in terms of bowling, but I think I was a better bowler for it. My action had become, I'd gone to the academy again with Rod Marsh at Loughborough, and I came back in 2004 against the West Indies. And I do think I was a far better bowler than I was before. So, there's always a positive out of a negative.
You then really played predominantly overseas tests for
Yep.
a little while. I suppose that would have helped your development bowling on sort of dry, hard pitches.
Yeah. And, the Kookaburra ball, that's what you use abroad. It's not the English boys aren't a massive fan of it because it hasn't got a seam. It swings for, 10 overs maximum, and then it just goes soft. But because of my time in the academy, I loved it. I loved bowling with the old ball, so it was fine with me. So it's almost like I came into my own, and I think that's where probably the selectors, etc., thought, well, Jonesy's perfect for this because he doesn't mind bowling those tough overs in the middle. He's going to bowl us spells where he could get us back in the game. So, yeah, it was one of those things I'd learned by trade, in a sense. Grafted at it.
Yeah. Okay. So sort of leading into the 2005 Ashes, obviously a massive build-up. I felt confident for England because that you'd won the previous 7 tests at home the previous year, also beaten Australia in that Champions Trophy match as well at Edgbaston. And I thought one thing, there was a sort of flashpoint, wasn't there, at Edgbaston in an ODI game when you accidentally bowled I think it was a beamer actually, was it, at Matthew Hayden? Tell us about that, what happened there.
So what happened was I bowled a full ball to Matthew Hayden. He hit it straight back at me. I've picked it up and just instinctively thrown it back at him. And I hit him in the chest. Let's be honest, Hayden's not the smallest man in the world, is he? He's got the biggest chest I've ever seen. We used to ask him how long it took him to pump it up in the morning just to wind him up. And he's just come down walking at me. And he's asked me, he said, what the F and L have you done that for? And I had my hand up pretending I was apologising. And I think the turning point was the fact that Andrew Strauss and Paul Collingwood came in to back me up straight away. They told him what they thought of him. So he's had a go at them, and it was all kicking off in the middle. You can see the umpires getting twitchy. And then Fred started walking towards him. And then you've seen Hayden turn around and go back to the crease. It was, because I remember one of my best friends, Urjan, was in the crowd. And he was stood up. He said it was amazing. He said, if you could have been in that crowd with me to feel the buzz and the excitement, and he said it was like a cold run. They all wanted to be there with you, fronting up to Matthew Hayden. He said it was immense. And I think that is where maybe the Aussies started seeing the fact that we weren't going to back down. We weren't going to kind of shrivel under pressure and be like, oh, yeah, these are the Australians, So it was, I think it kick-started that summer.
And there was also the T20 game as well when at Southampton, wasn't there, when Australia got bowled out very quickly and Darren Gough was fired up that game.
Oh, he was on a hat-trick, wasn't he?
Yeah.
to Andrew Simons.
And he bowled him
And
a
he,
bouncer.
yeah, he was fired up, to be fair to Goffey. John Lewis played that game, didn't he? And he had a few, he had a couple of wickets, had 2 or 3. It was great to watch because it was the first time I'd seen the Aussies look a bit ruffled as a team. So yeah, it was that. I think that series, the one day stuff, kind of gave us confidence because we saw cracks in the Aussies.
Yeah.
So cracks in it. We saw chinks in their armour, if you like.
So obviously that helped with the build-up. Let's just cut to Lords. Obviously, a lot of. I mean, I wrote a sort of diary of that sort of summer, and reading it back, there's lots of sort of 6 weeks of build-ups, and people like Hoggard saying, "Well, I think some of these Australians are a bit old." And then it's written up as over the hill. The Aussies are over the hill and all that. So there was quite a lot of kind of hype, obviously, coming into the game.
Yeah.
Lord's Test itself, I felt it was like all this build-up. I felt it was like sort of 2 boxers who'd been chained up in the corners suddenly being let loose. Certainly that first morning. What was said before the game, or I don't know if you recall. I mean, what was the planning? 'Cause there was a shot of Varney giving a team talk on the outfield. He sort of brought in that huddle idea, and there was a sort of shot of him kind of a call to arms, as it were. How did you see that sort of build up?
I'm not a massive fan of those huddles. I think once you get onto the field, I just want to go. I just want to run to my mark where I'm fielding, or tap a couple of my teammates on the back or the back sides and just crack on with it. So we were in the huddle, and to be fair, Varney was very good at team talks. And he said, "Look, boys, this is the one we've been waiting for. These are the ones that are preventing us from being number one. Let's have a go. Let's do what we've done for the last 2 or 3 years. This is the big one. This is what we want. Let's just fucking do it." And it did put the hairs on the back of my neck up, because I was thinking, this is where it starts. This is the start of what we've been planning for the last 4 years. This is the summer where we can make ourselves great. And that's the way we were looking at it. We weren't thinking in any kind of negative mind frames. We were young, and the casualties of our squad were Thorpe and Butch, because Vaughan and Fletcher chatted about we don't want any mental scarring in the squad. 2 immensely talented batsmen, and God rest his soul in Thorpe. So when Ian Bell and Kev came in, there was just a young, hungry, aggressive team that believed in themselves, and that's dangerous. That's really dangerous. It can backfire, as we saw in the first test, but the attitude and the mentality was there, that we weren't scared of these boys. We wanted to have a right go with them.
And you did, and it was an absolute kind of explosion of activity and drama in that first sort of session. Interestingly, you took a wicket with your first ball, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you made a habit of doing that, of taking wickets either in your first over or first 2 or 3 deliveries. You didn't seem to need any looseners. How did that manifest itself? How were you able to do that?
I was so highly strung when I was on the field. Nerves, excitement. I never ever stopped stretching. People used to make fun of me. If they looked over at me in the field, I'd always be down stretching my glutes, or quads, hammies, whatever it was, calves. I was never. My mum used to call me the fidget, because I was never still as a kid. I was always doing something, and I think that's the way I kind of kept myself ready to go. People might have thought, "Oh, he's got issues or something," but I always kept myself in a kind of physical state where I could go. So I think maybe that's why at times when I first came on, I'd pick up wickets. And to get Damien Martin like that, to be fair to Damien, I think it was a ball on 4th or 5th stump. nice length, and I think he thought, I'll start my series off with a back foot drive through the covers for 4. And it nipped away slightly and got the edge, and it flew through to Geraint. So it was a perfect start for me, obviously a dreadful start for him. But, I'd seen Martin play before, and he's such a beautiful player to watch, wasn't he? His hands were immense, and he just looked as if he had time, didn't he? He just had acres of time. So to get him like that was special for me, and it settled my nerves straight away. Biggest series I'm ever going to play in, and to get a wicket with your first ball was just a dream.
Yeah, and it must have given you confidence, I suppose.
Oh, huge, yeah.
And you come off at lunch. I realise this is 20 years ago. You may not be able to remember, but you came off at lunch. It was 97 for 5. You'd struck blows on the bodies of the big players. Was there a sort of feeling of like, we've got them here kind of thing?
The one thing going into that series, I think we, as a bowling unit, the 4 fast bowlers and Gilo, we believed we could bowl them out twice. We'd done it to the best teams in the world, apart from Australia. So we had that belief in our quartet of fast bowlers and Gilo that we could take 20 wickets. So it wasn't if we could, it was when we could. So we always believed we could bowl them out twice. And that's a big thing, isn't it, when you go into a test match? Because that's how you win games. So to get them 5 down at lunch, all right, there's perfect getting them 5 down. But for us, it would have happened at some point throughout that day. So I think the biggest kind of thought process in our heads was how we dealt with McGrath and Warne. The other bowlers, I think the batters were comfortable with. All right, Brett Lee bowled like the wind that series. But McGrath and Warne were the only 2 I think the batters would worry about out of that attack. So it's how our batters dealt with their bowling rather than how our bowlers dealt with their batting.
And that didn't go well.
No, it didn't.
Because McGrath got 5 wickets. I mean, obviously he bowled an absolute, perfect spell, really. I mean, was that demoralising?
The one thing I'd say about Glenn is he's true to his word. He, when he talks before the game, he will say things. All right, they said they were going to beat us 5-0. That was never going to happen. But he had such a belief in his side and himself that you knew when he came on to bowl, he was going to be on it. And the control and the length that he bowled, the height he had, was he 6'6", I think he is. He bowled quick enough, and he had that quicker ball as well, where he put an effort ball. So he was such a handful because he just nibbled it round. So I didn't envy our top order going against that, not with a brand new cherry. So yeah, it was one of those things. It was, look, he's a hell of a bowler, and he has been for years. So let's fingers crossed our boys can deal with him, and they didn't in that test.
In fact, you got a few, didn't you? You actually, your batting was really good the whole series, and I think you got sort of 20 odd at the end of the innings, and kind of gave it a bit of respectability.
I was top of the averages.
Your batting was well, yeah. I was going to say, I mean, your batting is sort of underrated, really.
Yeah, do you know what, Fletch? To be fair to Fletch, he always used to think outside the box. So what he did was, he said, look, the top 7 are obviously the main run getters. They're going to get us a score. But when it comes to 9-10 Jack, if we can keep the opposition out there for any length of time, any period of time, it's going to frustrate them. So he gave us batting buddies, and he gave me Marcus Trescothick. And I don't know who Harmy had and who Hoggy had. But Gilo didn't really need one because he was handy anyway. So I worked with Trez for the whole summer. Very similar in a sense, didn't move our feet. That's the only similarity because he was immense.
Left-handed as well.
Yeah, left-handed. But Trez used to throw at me, and he would give me tips about my head and where my hands were, and just to be working with someone like Trez, the genius that he was, because he was one of the best batsmen I've ever seen, was something that held us in good stead when we went out to bat. So myself and Hogg and Harm used to enjoy ourselves while we were out there, but we knew we had a job to do for the team. So we'd hang around, but then if we had an opportunity to score, we would. So it was good fun. We enjoyed it.
Actually, I never quite understand why batters. I never quite understand why bowlers don't take their batting more seriously, because if the longer you can stay out there, the longer you put off having to bowl. For
exactly.
a start.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see that, and obviously you had some fun there. Well, anyway, you lost the test. Big lead by Australia, 7 drop catches. Obviously quite depressing. What did you do afterwards, after that test match? Because there was quite a big break, and obviously it was devastating. After all that build-up and that hype and that expectation, suddenly you've gone 1 down. It's like, oh, here we go again. There was a line in one of the papers, Hoggy having said that the Aussies were over the hill. The line in the paper was, the Aussies are over the hill and far away. They've run away with it. What did you? How did you yourself manage to regroup there?
So Matthew Maynard was the batting coach for that summer with England. So we travelled back in the car together, and we just chatted. We just chilled out. We didn't really talk much about the game. I got back to Cardiff, and the first thing I did, I called a couple of my mates. I said, "Do you fancy catching up for a couple of beers?" So I went out for a couple of beers with my mates in Cardiff. I tried to switch off, tried to get away from what had just happened, and Vaughan had suggested, obviously not, he didn't suggest, right, go out and get a few beers in you. He said, right, go home, chill out, find something to do, go and have a round of golf, just distract yourself from what's just happened. I don't want you dwelling on this test match. I really don't. So that's what I did, and I kicked back with the mates. I just went away for a couple of days, went back down to see my mum and dad, just chilled out, really. And then Matt Maynard called me up. He said, right, we're going to go and have a net with Trez, just to keep you ticking over with your bowling. So myself and Trez met up. Matt was there. I remember Tom came along as well, Tom Maynard, just came to look as a youngster. And we just had a couple of net sessions over a couple of days, and then we kind of rejoined the squad then in Birmingham. So I think it was a little break that was needed. But when we got to Edgbaston, the boys were in good spirits. I think because they'd listened to the advice of Vaughan and just gone away and forgotten about that first test.
Mm. And obviously there was this sort of lucky break with McGrath falling over, injured, and then Ponting deciding to field first. Yeah. Can you remember the reaction there?
I remember my reaction, because Vaughan was terrible. Well, his coin tossing wasn't great. He didn't win that many. So, and if you remember, we'd had that storm, hadn't we? A couple of days before the test. And it was rough, wasn't it? The weather was terrible. So I always kind of went into the dressing room before a test match or any game thinking, right, prepare to bowl. Just prepare to bowl. You're obviously hoping that you bat, because it's great, isn't it? You can just chill out and eat food and relax and watch the batter score runs. But I remember I was in the physio room getting the masseuse to stretch me off, do my hamstrings, quads, groins, everything like that. And then there's obviously in at Edgbaston, there's a little tannoy system in the rooms, in every room, in the change rooms. And I said, Australia have won the toss. So I've just shot up going, right, I've got to get my boots on. And I've elected to bowl, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, what have you done? So all the boys were like, you beauty, running around the dressing rooms. But then you see the batters thinking, right, I've got to switch on now. And yeah, it was one of those scenarios where, I think regardless of the storm and the weather, Edgbaston is always that type of wicket. I don't think it changes that much ever.
Mm. Yeah.
It's always flat, isn't it? There's no real pace in it. It's just, yeah, I never enjoyed bowling at Edgbaston ever because it didn't give you much. It was just it was a slog.
I think it's the word I would use for Edgbaston is capricious, because
Okay.
it sounds a fancy word, but it kind of, it lulls you into sort of thinking there's something there,
Yeah.
and then there's nothing there, and then suddenly something happens, and the odd ball does something, and you think, oh, good,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah. So it's a funny one. It's a bit sort of unpredictable, isn't it? It's like a woman, you know, extremely unpredictable. You actually, I mean, obviously England, you know, batted superbly well. Trez, you know, to the fore and all that. KP, Freddie, but you actually again added a bit of an impact at the end there, a sort of little bit of an injection of in the tail. So that must have put everyone in fantastic heart, really.
Yeah, I think the good thing that summer for us late order batters was if you'd faced Brett Lee, because of his pace, you know, it was rapid. I remember facing him at Lords, and I was at the other end of Kev. Kev was facing him, and he looked pretty comfortable. So I thought it can't be that bad. So then I faced him, and I didn't see it, and I was like, "Oh my good God, what am I going to do? Yeah, I could die today." So then when we had to face Brett Lee at some point. So when you were facing him, it was reaction. It wasn't, right, what am I going to do? You're just trying to get bat on ball and get off strike. So then poor, like Casper and Gillespie and the other bowlers, when they came on, they were still bowling 85 miles an hour, but it felt like they were bowling 75, 80 because you just faced that lunatic. So it was so much easier to face those guys than Brett Lee. So then we could get after them a little bit and we could score our runs. It was survive against Brett Lee and then score our runs against the other bowlers, and it worked. It worked.
Yeah, well, you had a good influence more with the bat actually in that game. You got Langer LBW. I noted. I think that was a reverse in swinger to the left hander, was it?
And Hayden as well. Yeah, reverse away swinger. Good catch at Trez.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you get to the final day, so they need 100 with 3 wickets left. Then Harmy gets that wicket on the last ball of the day on the third day, Clarke. So you get to the fourth day, and it's like they need 100, 2 wickets left. You must be thinking pretty confident, I suppose. I mean, Vaughan said, yeah, we thought we got it.
Oh, 100%. And that spell, I'll go back to the night before, though, the spell that Harmy and Fred had bowled was exceptional. Those two just, whenever the team needed something, those two were the ones that Vaughan would always go to. And you couldn't blame him because they'd run in all day. And they both had that special length that was horrible to face for any batter. I don't care who they were. They hit that length so hard. I remember I had to face them both in nets, and it was the most putrid net I've ever had in my life. It was horrific. They were never going to bowl short of me, but just their natural length was still horrible.
Yeah.
So that spell the night before, and then getting Clarke with that slower ball, we were just on a massive high. So we thought, right, this will be over by lunch. At the latest, we'll just get onto Broad Street and have a couple of beers and have some food and celebrate. And it wasn't that way. It was horrible because I wouldn't have minded bowling in that scenario because you're in control of what's going on. So to be fielding and being on edge and slowly watching the runs needed go down and down and down because Vaughan and Brett Lee batted brilliantly together. And then Vaughan kicked his own stumps. But I knew then that because I'd played a lot of cricket with Michael Clarke at Glamorgan, I knew that guy could bat. So I was thinking, this isn't over yet. This isn't over by a long stretch. He got hundreds for us, so he's a proper batter. So I was like, lads, let's calm it down a bit. Casps can play. We've got to stay switched on here. And they did, and then obviously unfortunately, I dropped that one down at third man off Fred.
That was quite a hard chance, though, wasn't it?
It was, but do you know what, Hughes? I had to back myself to catch it. I'd taken some, decent, tough catches for England in the past. But because of the way Edgbaston was, I just lost the ball in the crowd over on the other side. Because there was loads of yellows and blues and reds and stuff, and I just lost it. I thought, right, I've got to go for it. If I lose my teeth, I lose my teeth. I'm going for it. And it hit me on the wrist. And there was that horrible feeling, oh my God, you might have just dropped the Ashes, because if they go 2-0 up, we're never coming back, because weather's going to play a part in it. And so, yeah, that's probably the worst I've ever felt on the field. The Aussies were giving me bundles in the crowd, and then the English fans were going back at them and trying to support me. And then I've seen that the scores went from, I think it was 15 needed at that time, get down and going into single figures, and I was thinking, right, we're in a bit of trouble here. Then I was fielding a point, and Brett Lee hit the ball so clean straight at me off Harmy. I didn't even think about it. I just bent down, picked it up, and threw it into Geraint straight over the stumps. I think if I'd thought about it, that could have gone through your legs and gone for 4, just to sum my day up. I think something could have happened, but it was just because he hit this so hard, it came to me so quickly, I didn't have time to think. So I just did what automatic response, to throw it in. And then that got Casper on strike.
So just before you can go to Casper on strike, I mean, so actually, you dropped the Ashes and saved the Ashes in the space of half an hour. Because you did save the Ashes. That ball, I've watched it many times, and it was a juicy full toss. Absolutely smashed it, and it went straight to you. So, and you could have misfielded that easily.
Yeah,
but it was meant to be, as you said. So anyway, you get Casper on strike, and Harmy produces the rib tickler.
Yeah, and gloved him. Geraint took a great catch down leg side. He'd had so much stick off the Aussie fans that summer. Gilchrist did as well, because they both had dropped catches, so the fans love to get onto that, don't they? And it's the first time I've ever seen Geraint be aggressive, because when he took the catch, and it was Billy Bowden give it out, he's coming to see some of the lads, but then he's run straight down to the Aussie fans, giving them loads. He was giving them loads. And that's the first time I've ever seen Geraint react like that. I was thinking, you beauty. I was so pleased for him to take that catch, but obviously relieved at the same time. They needed 2 runs, I think it was. But the game was won, and it was massive relief from my point of view.
Yeah. I know it was from everybody's point of view in England anyway. I mean, we were looking at it thinking, if it's 2-0, it's going to be 5-0 or 4-0 or whatever. And, football's going to take over again, and, cricket will have lost its moment. So, we were all thinking the same thing. And Varney says that after the game, after the sort of, kind of crazy celebrations in the dressing room, etc., you went out on Broad Street and obviously had a few, and he said that you were accompanied by a loaf of bread.
I was.
Well, no, as a team. Apparently, I mean, it's a weird story, but you obviously don't remember it. But apparently a loaf of bread was outside the bar where you were drinking, and it blew down the road and followed you or something bizarre. I mean, anyway, you obviously had a few. Are you a good celebrator in moments like that?
Love it. Yeah, I'm not going to be the most animated, as in dancing round and doing silly things, but I'll have a few beers. Yeah, and I think we were in Walkabout on Broad Street, and there was a load of Aussie fans there. They'd obviously been on the beers all day, and they had their yellow headbands on. So me and Kev went and joined them. We were with them for a good hour. We put their headbands on, and we were having banter and having laughs, and we had a great time with them. And I think they really appreciated us coming over, because I think Shane Warne mentioned it in his book. He said, we knew we were playing against a good bunch of lads because of what Jonesy and KP did. They went and spent an hour with these guys. We didn't think about the time limits or anything. We were just having a good laugh. And then the boys said, right, we're moving on to the next place, and we left. But we had a good goal that night. It was good fun. But if you can't celebrate wins like that, then what's the point? So we just did. I think that's the one good thing about that squad and that team I was in. We did everything together. It was almost like a family. There was never any kind of fractions or
Mm.
a certain amount of people going over there, and we stuck together as a group, and I think that's what made us special. And we had that special bond in a sense that if we're doing it as one. It was good.
Mm. So there wasn't much time between that game and the Old Trafford test. So you're
Yeah.
rushing up to Old Trafford. I mean, talk about Old Trafford, a classic ground for reverse swing, obviously, dry, sort of quite abrasive pitch. Troy Cooley, you mentioned him earlier.
Mm.
How was he sort of influenced? It must have been quite difficult for him in a way. Australian, bowling coach, England.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you kind of interact with him? How did he help in that scenario?
We saw Troy as one of us. I think at times I forgot he was Australian. I think he'd spent so much time since the first Rod Marsh Academy in 2001 to where we were 4 years.
Hmm.
His loyalties were always with us, and he integrated so well. He like we had the if we go out for food in the evening, normally the bowlers might go out for a bite to eat, and he'd always come with us. And if I didn't feel right in the middle, you'd have been there, Husey, where sometimes it doesn't click. I wouldn't go up and watch some film footage from the morning session or the afternoon session. I go straight to him. I'm like, Troy, what do you think? And he said, everything's fine. It's gonna come. Don't worry about it. Get that crap out of your head. He said, you're looking great, blah, blah, blah. So he had a way of pumping your tires up so that, and try to get you not thinking too much and just keep it simple. And I think that's the key to any kind of batting, bowling, fielding in cricket. Just keep it simple. Don't think too much. Don't get too many theories. Just do the basics right, and the rest will look after itself, in my opinion, anyway. And he was good like that. He always made you feel comfortable in your own game. He was good like that, special.
So you took 6 for, didn't you, in that innings? What wickets would have given you the most pleasure?
Gilchrist. Look, he was unreal. To have him coming in at number 7, you get them 5 or 6 down, and then he walks in. It was relentless. You're thinking, when is this going to stop? And then after him came Shane Warne. They're a real strong batting lineup. So Gilchrist was one, Ponting the other. Straight after tea was the first ball after tea. He came forward to just a back of a length ball, and it just bounced a little bit more and barely caught him at point. He was a huge wicket for us. I think out of their lineup, he was the danger man for us because he was so gritty. He was so. Your margin for error against Ponting was nothing. If you were in length, he'd either pull you or he'd drive you. It's probably like a couple of handkerchiefs in length. And if you didn't hit them properly and hard and as quickly as you could, he's going to take you down. So Ponting was probably a massive wicket for me. And yeah, him and Gilchrist out of that 6. Clarke I got with a slower ball in the first innings. So yeah, and I got Gillespie as well, LBW. What was the other one? Can't remember the other one.
I think was it
Brett Lee.
Brett Lee. I was going to say one of the
Trez caught
one
him.
of the bowlers. Yeah.
So it was those two were big wickets, and I think the like I had a quiet game in Edgbaston, but Fred and Harmy stood up. I think that was the key to our success as a unit. Was at different times, at different games, different people put their hands up, and I think that's the key to the success we had. Was that fact, but also we enjoyed each other's success. There was never any jealousy or envy when someone else did well. They were just really pleased for each other. because we knew as a unit we were clicking, and we were a well-oiled unit. We were working well, and that was the outcome was bigger than a personal kind of outcome. It was like we want to succeed as a team, and you can't get better than that.
And obviously, the iconic, well, one of the iconic wickets in that whole series was your wicket of Michael Clarke in the second innings. You know, lots of us have seen the replay and the clatter of the stumps. It made an amazing noise, actually. Can you remember the noise?
Yeah. When I was on social media, I've left all social media now because I think it's gone to the dogs. It's terrible. And on my birthday, Christmas Day every year, I just get that video would be sent to me by either the Barmy Army or some kind of cricket fraternity, and they'd cut me in, and then the replies were just immense, and people had it as their ringtone, as their message tone. It was unreal. So yeah, I've got the stump here actually.
Well, let's have a look. Yeah, okay, with the end power signal on it. Yeah, does it have?
Yeah.
Can you see a ball mark on it anywhere?
No, I think the ball was too old. I think it. No, there's not. There might be, because I've got two of them. I might be on the other one. But the biggest thing for me, Husey, was the way I kind of set him up, because we all really rated Michael Clarke. He was an exceptional batsman, and he kind of, as a batsman in that team, he snuck under the radar because of the big names around him. So he didn't get off lightly in a sense, but when we were talking in our meetings about where we were going to bowl and what the plans were, all we'd say about Clarke was big LBW candidate. Whereas the others, we probably had 4 or 5 points of what we were going to do. So he kind of snuck under the radar quite a lot. So the ball was reversing nicely as it would at Old Trafford, because the square is so abrasive, even though we'd had a lot of rain. So I just thought, right, he's going to have 10 balls of a reverse away swing. I'm just going to try and get him comfortable. And that's the thing, when you get to test level, you can't just bowl people out. You have to think them out because they're that good. So I thought, right, this is my plan now. I'll let Vaughan know, right, I'm going away from him for 10 to 12 balls. But then you get that feeling that, right, the time is now. I think he's happy doing what he's doing. He's happy just leaving. This is easy. He edged a couple down to third man. I'm happy with that. So then I got to top my mark, and the crowd had gone a little bit quiet. So I give them the G up, and they all reacted. And then you can hear the crowd woo as you're running in. And genuinely, that ball couldn't have come out any better if I tried. It just came out my hand beautifully. But I knew as soon as I'd done it, that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. It's bang on the money. And then he shouldered arms. I heard him say, "Oh no." I don't think the stump bag picked it up. He kind of muttered it. And then just heard that noise. I've turned around and celebrated. All the boys are piling me. But I remember when I looked at the crowd, I'd spotted an older couple in the crowd. And all I could see was them hugging and embracing each other. And it was almost like, oh, we've been part of this kind of what's just happened. Oh, it blew my mind how, honestly, I thought my head was going to burst. It was probably the best feeling I had in any test match or any cricket game I'd ever played. In that one moment was
better than sex. That is actually,
yeah, it would have, yeah.
When you have that planning like that, and you've actually sort of set the plan out and it's worked perfectly. Which how often does that actually happen? It doesn't very often. Does it?
Never. No, that happens in your dreams, doesn't it? That does happen in your dreams. But it was reality that day, and it was just the best. It was the best.
No, it's wonderful. I mean, it's a product of years of practice and experience and expertise, just sort of boiled down into that one moment, really.
Yeah, and that's what I always say to youngsters coming through. I said, look, you're not going to be the end product for a while. It's going to take you time to learn the art of bowling and to learn your trade, really, because it is a trade, isn't it? You learn your skills, and that was bang on. The time I'd spent bowling with that horrible little old ball, it all came good.
Although this is in a totally different scenario, I remember playing in a match in Ireland against Ireland for Middlesex, and I was swinging it away beautifully, and I got 2 or 3 wickets. I mean, it's only Ireland. I got 2 or 3 wickets caught behind, and I think it was Ed Joyce's father actually.
Okay.
Was a decent player, and I bowled him about 3 outswingers, and then I bowled him the inswinger. He shouldered arms, bowled, and I just remember I can really see that even now. And Mike Brearley, who was captain at the time, and it was during that 81 Ashes series. He said, "God," he said, "if Botham gets injured, you're in." You know,
Really?
yeah. And I then played in a test trial soon after that, actually.
Yeah.
And Paul Allott played in it as well, and he got picked for the 4th test at Old Trafford. I didn't perform well enough in the test trial. It was fair enough. But I just remember that moment actually when all those little plans come to fruition, and the batter's face as well is a picture, isn't it? When they realise they've been deceived like that, it's wonderful.
The thing for me, Husey, as well, I don't think batsmen give bowlers enough credit for how much we prepare and think about the game. I think they think we're quite simple creatures, don't they? So when you do a batsman like that, it's even better.
Totally, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, final day, you don't manage to bowl them out. It's a draw. Is there anything I've missed in that match? I'm just trying to think.
I got cramped, didn't I?
Oh, did you? Yeah. So you were off the field, were you? Yes.
I was bowling nicely, and the thing, Husey, was I'd seen Fred and Kev gulping down Red Bulls, and you know how it is when you get through a test match. It's hard work, isn't it? You get your lulls and energy and stuff. So I thought I'd crack open a couple of these Red Bulls, have a go with them, and they dehydrated me so much I got cramp, and I literally couldn't bend my leg. I was in the right pickle. Kirk Russell came on, and I said, "Kirk, I can't bend my leg, mate." I said, "I literally can't. So how am I going to run into bowl?" So I had to go off, and it was a horrible feeling. But yeah, never had a Red Bull since, ever, ever.
So you don't need one anyway. So what? So you're in the dressing room then when Australia drew the game, were you?
Yeah.
So you would have seen at close hand, their celebrations as if they'd won.
Yeah, it was, and I think from what the lads said when they were on the field, Vaughan did another huddle, didn't he? And he said, "Look at that dressing room balcony." He said, "Have you ever seen the Australians celebrate a draw?" Never, he said. He said, "We've got these boys. We've got them." I think they realise now they're in a fight, in a scrap, and we're better than them. And he said, "This is game on." He said, "We go again at Trent Bridge."
Now, before Trent Bridge, Vaughan told me, and I'm sure you've heard this story since, that you said to him, "You don't go very well at Trent Bridge."
Probably would have, yeah. I was that type of person.
Well, you said that, but anyway, he apparently, this is how he tells it, you said to him, I'm not that confident at Trent Bridge, and he looked it up, and you'd never played there.
I had played for Glamorgan there, I think, twice, and I don't think one was a 1-dayer, and one was a 4-dayer, I think.
Oh, well, anyway, I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, but he was slightly baffled because he looked up the evidence, and there was no evidence to back up the fact that you didn't go well there or something anyway. So you get to Trent Bridge, and actually you had a great impact there. Again, what was the assistance you found in that pitch?
I think it was the conditions in general. It always swings at Trent Bridge, doesn't it? And it was the first opportunity I'd had that summer to kind of show my skills with conventional swing. because the outfield was so lush, the square was fairly lush as well. So reverse swing was out until the fourth, fifth day, really. So I got given a ball and I let one go and I thought, oh, that's nice. That's swung beautifully. So I thought, right, I'm in the game here. And it was a great feeling in the sense that, right, I've been labelled as a bit of a one-trick pony. Just give him the old ball and let him go was fine. So that's to kind of prove to people that I could do that was a good feeling for me personally. But I was struggling with my ankle big time as well. So I was thinking, I think I've got much left in me. In this series, really. I'd had 3 cortisone jabs that summer in my ankle. And they were slowly having lesser and lesser of an effect on my ankle. And it was agony. I had a couple of bone spurs and one had broken off, so it was floating around in the joint. So it was brutal at times. So when I had the opportunity, I thought, right, this might be the last hurrah here. You've got to go hard and try and pick up some wickets. And I got 5 for. And yeah, it was nice just to get the ball swinging conventionally, and it swung around corners as well. That ball I got Casper with started on leg stump and it off. I think it did. So it was a good feeling.
And there was that one other incident in that match was Gary Pratt running out Ponting, and the general feeling that England players were going off the field regularly for toilet breaks and stuff. I mean, what's your memory of that? What was that? Do you think you abused it, or was it just normal because you were hydrating so much?
It was in the rules of the game that after you finish the spell, if it's a hot day or whatever it was, just go and change your shirt.
So you would go off, presumably, would you? Yeah. Fairly regularly?
I'd go and change my shirt. I didn't like because of the nature of the material of the shirts. I didn't like the sweat of the shirts sitting on my back, and it just didn't feel. So I'd always want to go and put a fresh shirt on, hang that one up so it dries for the next session or whatever it was. And it wasn't, we weren't breaking any rules. The Australians could have done it as well. I'm sure they did at times. You had a time limit of 2 overs, I think it was, to get back on the field. But that in that instance, when Gary Pratt went on, I was on my way to hospital to have my ankle scanned. So it was legitimate. And I think obviously Ponting's kicked off. He's picked the wrong one to have a go at in Fletch, because Fletch was never going to give him a reaction. But, Gary had been brought into the squad as our kind of super 12th man, because he was a great fielder. He was a good lad to be around the lads. He had a bit of banter. He was a proper Geordie. He was just a good person to have around. He had that young person energy, which was good for the older guys in the side as well. So he was the perfect 12th man, and he loved just traveling around with us and experiencing what we were experiencing. And so then obviously Ponting's been run out. Great bit of fielding by Gary, by the way. The angle he threw out, you only had one stump to aim for. So it was a great bit of fielding. But then obviously as Ponting's walking off, he's looking up, isn't he, to our dressing room, and he's having a go at Fletch, and Fletch gave him nothing. Absolutely nothing. He had his shades on, was just smiling at him. It's the first time I've seen Fletch smile all summer. Or ever.
We'll talk about Fletch actually in a minute, because obviously you had a relationship with him at Morgan as well. Just before we get to that, you made Australia follow on for the first time for 30 years or something. But no, actually it was probably more like 100 years. Anyway, but Varney got you in a huddle to say, can we do this? Are we going to make them follow on? And presumably, even though you were in pain, you said yes, did you?
I wasn't there.
Right, you'd already gone off, because you bowled 4 overs in the second innings.
I'd gone off to see the fizz.
Right.
And said, look, this is not working. So they brought as you know, there's always a doctor on call at the ground, isn't there? So he put some local anaesthetic in my ankle just to numb it, like you do when you go to the dentist. And I think he'd put a little bit too much in. So then when I went back out to bowl, I was running into bowl, and I literally couldn't feel my foot. So I was running as if I was on one leg because I didn't know where the other one was. So then it was great because I didn't feel any pain. But in terms of when I was jumping to bowl, I didn't know when my right foot was landing. So my whole action was out of sync. And if you look at the pace I was bowling 75 to 78 mile an hour because my action wasn't working. And I looked at Vonnie and said, mate, I can't do this. I could literally break my leg because I don't know where my foot is. And I don't think that went down too well with Michael because he's thinking, right, I'm a bowler down, and we made him follow on. So I don't think I was on his Christmas card list at that point. But I didn't know how the injection was going to work. I didn't realize it was going to be that strong. If he'd put in a couple of less milligrams, I might have been all right. But yeah, it wasn't. It was another rubbish feeling like at Old Trafford where I had to go off with cramp. And then when I had to go off there, and when you're watching the boys bowling, it's the worst. You just want to be out there with them, and it was terrible. It was terrible.
So you didn't play any further part in the game, except, of course, that you were in the dressing room for that run chase, 129, I think it was, to win, and suddenly it's 117 for 7.
Yeah.
And you're, I presume, padded up, ready to go out and bat, even though you can't feel your leg.
Yeah. Me and Harmy were looking at each other, and I said, look, Harm, you're going to be able to get down the stairs far quicker than me. You're going to have to go, pal. And then I'll go out as number 11 if needed. So my plan was, if Harmy got out, I'd have followed him down the stairs, and I'd literally, he wouldn't have made him feel very good, but I would have followed him down the stairs, and then I would have sat near to where I would have had to walk out where the fans are and the supporters. That was my plan. But then, watching Hoggy and Gilo bat Fred, I've never seen Fred as nervous, ever. He was just pacing round. He was going up the stairs into where the showers were and stuff, and he just couldn't sit still, and he was just biting his nails. He looked like a kid that was going to see the headmaster. He looked terrified. And I was kind of thinking, right, I just hope to God I'm not needed or Harmy, because this is end of engine stuff here. And then you saw Hoggard played a cover drive, didn't he? Off Brett Lee, I think it was. And it was just a plink because of the pace that Brett Lee was bowling. It went for 4, didn't it? And then Gilo played that ball off Warney, I think it was. And there was relief. We went 2-1 up, and it was all to play for. And we obviously went out that night to celebrate, but the fizz was on to me like a ton of bricks.
Well, I was going to say, did you find that suddenly the pain went away briefly?
I wasn't allowed to drink.
Oh.
You said you can go out, but you're on a Coke all night, Coca-Cola all night. You are not touching a drop of alcohol. So then the prep started then for the Oval. So I'd been to London. So do you know the Wellington Hospital?
Yeah. Very well. I had a knee operation there.
Yes. They've got a hyperbaric chamber there. So I had 6 days in there. I think it was 2-3 hour sessions for 6 days, just with the gas mask on. It was a horrible feeling, Husey, because I was in there with cancer patients. One guy had gangrene and he could have lost his foot. And I was in there with them, and it wasn't because of what was wrong with them. I felt like an imposter. I'm like, these people are trying to save their lives or save his foot, and I'm just here to play sport. I felt as if I was taking the place of someone that deserved to be in there. But, that's the way I thought about things. I was always about other people rather than myself. So I did that, and
what was the result? I mean, did it help at all?
Not really, no. Then I went and did some training at one of the Premier League football teams in London. They had a pool where the floor would drop, so we could slowly start at like chest high and start running, and then it'd slowly bring it up each time I did a couple of lengths just to see how the ankle was feeling. The facilities were amazing, but the damage in the ankle was too much, and so Kirk said, right, we've just got to try it out on grass. So we went out onto the practice pitches, and I did a couple of lengths running, and it just wasn't working. I said, look, there's no way I can go into that game and let the lads down again. We're just gonna have to call it a day, unfortunately. So,
I mean, that must have been devastating for you.
oh yeah, it was horrific because, and I think that would have been the first time that England had never changed a team in a series against Australia ever. So it would have been nice to create history like that, but also it'd been nice to have been on the park with the lads to celebrate that last game as well. So yeah, it was tough. I think in the build-up as well. So then I went home.
So you
'cause I
didn't
think there
stay
was-
for them. You didn't stay for the Oval Test.
So I think there was 2 or 3 days before the Oval Test started. So Kirk said, look, mate, you're best off just going home, having a bit of time to yourself. And Fletch had said, look, Jonesy, don't take this the wrong way, but in the build up to the test match now, and for days 1 and 2 of the test, I don't want you in the dressing rooms. So to begin with, I was a bit like, it's a bit of a kick in the teeth, that. But his thinking was, I want the game to start, the boys to settle into the game without any distractions. And now looking back at it, and I've looked back at it previously, it made total sense. They don't want to be thinking about me, oh, Jones, are you okay? You know, how was the ankle, blah, blah, blah. Gutted you're not on the field with us. There's a sense, right, these lads can start afresh now for the first 2 days, get into the game. And then I went up on the second night, so I went in for the third day to go and watch.
Right.
And I thought that was a genius move from Fletch. And that's how he was. He always thought outside the box, and he did what was best for the team and not the individual. I'd love to have been there for the 5 days, but you got to do what's right at times. And I think it did help the boys settle into that game.
And then you were there for the climax, were you?
Yeah. So for the last 2 days or 3 days, I was there, and it was tough watching. But at the same time, it's nice to see the boys and be around them. And you know, if they come off after bowling, I'd be running around getting them food, or well, not running around, but walking around getting them food, getting them whatever they needed. Really, I was there to help them prepare and to help them as much as I could, just to be in a comfortable place for playing in such a high pressure situation.
And what is your memory of the celebrations and the parade and stuff? What
Yeah.
kind of sticks in the mind the most?
I think first of all, when Phil Neal came into the dressing rooms after we won, and he'd said that we had a bus tour the next day, the boys thought he was joking. It's just like, really? You know, we want to enjoy this whole kind of experience of what we've been through this summer. We want to kick back, relax, and kind of soak it in. So he said, no, genuinely, you have to be in reception at 9:15 tomorrow morning. And Vaughan had another blind. He said, well, Phil, you're going to have to take us how we come. We're going to enjoy tonight. And he said, I'm not putting any kind of curfews on the boys. They can go out and let their hair down. You'll just have to have us as we come in the morning. And we saw Fred walking out, didn't you? He looked like a cyclops, only one eye was working. He was, to be fair, we were all in a bit of a pickle. Like, none of us had gone really to bed. He might have had an hour, 2 hours max. I think Strauss would have had an earlier night. Vaughan, obviously, he's the captain. He's going to be meeting some serious people and having to talk to them tomorrow. The rest of us were just rabble. We were going to go and get blasted, really. So it was, we were in reception, and we were just thinking to ourselves, why are we even doing this? Why have they got a bus ride? No one is going to turn up. Who's going to want to come and see us? Cricket's, you know, it's a pretty big sport in England, but you've got football, you've got rugby, and etc. all ahead of us. So we were a little bit embarrassed and a bit kind of worried about what the reaction was going to be like. Imagine going on a bus, right, an open top bus, and there's no one there. That'd be the worst feeling in the world, wouldn't it? And that's exactly how we thought it was going to go. And then it started, and then we just saw people. There was like 10, 15 deep, people hanging out of office windows, and our minds were blown. Even though we were probably still half drunk from the night before, it was just like, oh my good God, this is just different league. This is different levels. And we had a couple of stop-offs, went to see Can Livingston, and then obviously went to number 10. I think Tony Blair thought, yeah, this would be an amazing publicity stunt for me. Get the Ashes boys in here, blah, blah, blah. And then his face changed when he saw us get off the bus. I think he thought to himself, what have I done? What have I done? But it was special just to go into number 10 to see what it was all about, go into the garden, have some nice champagne, celebrate in an environment where you felt relaxed, you felt safe, and the boys could just be themselves and enjoy that moment. So it was a great day. And then obviously Trafalgar Square, that was obscene. The amount of people that were there, people on the fountains, climbed all the statues, and it was something that we'll never forget ever.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Yeah, it was brilliant. It was a sort of climax of a national celebration, really, of the game as much as the series, I suppose. So, big come down afterwards. I mean, what was it like for you the next few months?
It was tough. I more or less had a couple of weeks off. I had to go to Loughborough to try and get fit for the Pakistan tour in the winter with this ankle. So I'd had surgery. A guy down in Bristol did it. Ian Winston, I think his name was. Brilliant bloke. He did as much as he could. He took out a hell of a lot of scar tissue, he said. He sorted out the bone spurs. And then the rehab started. And it's one of those scenarios where you've gone to penthouse to outhouse. It's almost like you're back in the daily grind of, as a fast bowler, of trying to get fit again. It wasn't great. I wasn't in a great place, if I'm honest. And I was just like, oh, the other lads are relaxing and stuff. I'm stuck up in Loughborough on my own in a big house where there's normally 20, 30 guys. I'm just rehabbing on my Todd. It was tough. It was tough.
And you tried to come back and resurrect your career a couple of times. I mean, how did you deal with that? How was it? And looking back, I mean, is it you tried your best? Were you unlucky? I mean, could you have done something different, or in a way, you just had to accept it?
The tough thing was, Uzi, I got fit for the Indian tour, and I'd landed in a foothole. It was just obscene, the luck I had at times. I landed in a foothole in the last warm-up game before the first test, and the groundsman hadn't filled in the footholes, and they were about that deep and about that wide. So I've gone wide of the crease to try and avoid it, and landed on the corner, and my left knee buckled, and I tore the cartilage off the bone. So then that was me gone again. And I always get asked, because then obviously that was microfracture job. I had to go to Colorado to see Richard Stedman, who invented the microfracture. And that was the start of 7 years of hell. And I always get asked, is there one thing you could have changed? And I think in 2006, with that knee injury, I should have retired then, instead of being a stubborn sod that I am, trying to prove the press wrong, trying to prove other people wrong, and doing multiple rehabs. I should have packed it in then, because Gilo did the same thing, didn't he, with his hip? I think he retired in 2006, 7, maybe slightly longer, 8. I think I should have just packed it in and and gone down another avenue in cricket in terms of maybe I could have gone and worked at one of the TV kind of things as a pundit. I don't know. But I decided I wanted to carry on playing cricket, and yeah, it plagued me for 7 years.
So what
Yeah.
age were you at 2006?
2006. What are we in? 21?
20, so 19 years ago.
27,
30,
27, 26, 27.
yeah. So you were so young, really. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. My dad retired at 26.
really. But
From
also with
Salvo, yeah.
injury.
Yeah.
Who helps you through that? I mean, it's been quite difficult. How did you kind of manage to get through it, really?
I think during that time I had a young family. The boys were young. They were like 2 and 3 and 4, wherever it was. And I think the toughest thing about the whole process, I think throughout my career, the toughest period I had mentally was at Hampshire. They were a great bunch of boys there. The changing room were really good. Just there were loads of youngsters like Liam Dawson, Chris Wood, and David Griffiths and these people. And then we had Corky, was Carbs was there, Skeg, Nick Bothas, and they were just good people to be around. Ian Brunchwell was a fitness guy. But I became so used to training on my own in terms of the gym, and I became obsessed with trying to look after my knee. My fighting weight would have been 95, 96 kilograms. I was down to 88 because the physio, Andrew Neelan, brilliant bloke, had said, right, you've got to be as light and as strong as possible to take the stress off your knee. And it just made sense. So I remember one Christmas, the boys were quite young, 3 and 5. And it was Christmas Eve. I drove to the gym, found it closed. That just screwed in my head. I just went home, ran up and down the stairs for an hour just to try and keep my fitness up. Christmas Day, I went to the gym, closed, obviously. It's Christmas holiday. That's the state of mind I was in. Brain was just so focused on, right, you've got to stay fit to play cricket, to earn money for the family. I was in a horrible bubble. And I was looking back, I think I was pretty unwell in terms of how focused I was on and blinkered on what I had to do. Nothing else mattered outside that bubble. I was vacant, really. I was like an empty vessel. And unless I was doing cricket, like I never drank during my time at Hampshire. Maybe odd 1 or 2 occasions, because I was worried how it would affect my knee. It was almost like it just took over my life when it shouldn't have. And that was one of the reasons I think maybe I should have packed it in 2006, because then I wouldn't have had to go through all that shit.
I think it's an interesting one because, I mean, it happened to Freddie a bit as well, didn't it? I mean, he then went to Australia as captain in 2006-07 and suffered from depression. I think a few drinking problems or too much drink or whatever. It's hard, isn't it, when you've had that exhilaration? Well, not many of us have ever experienced that sort of height of excitement that you experienced. And that there's going to be, it's a bit like being on drugs, isn't it? And then suddenly there's this drop off. It's hard to deal with, and nobody can really explain it because very few people have experienced it, I suppose.
And I think the other thing was the frustration of not being able to bowl like you used to be able to bowl. Because I knew in my head I can do this, but my body's not letting me, and that was really frustrating. And I think you'd have been through it, Husey, with if you've been injured, people asking you when you're going to be fit. Are you fit? The amount of times I got asked, are you fit? If I had £1 for it, I'd be a multi-millionaire. And you have to put on this face. You have to be polite. You can't tell people to F off or something like that. Get out my face. I'm a human being. You asking me that question is triggering. So then you have to remove yourself from that situation. Be polite, say, oh yeah, look, I'm getting there, blah, blah, blah. Give them the old spiel and then walk off. So there's loads of stuff that happened which kind of, looking back, could have been avoided if I'd just thought a bit clearer at the time instead of being hungry to carry on playing the game I love, maybe thinking logically and
Yeah, but
making the right decision.
you can't look into the future though, can you? And
No, you
it's
can't.
easy in hindsight. Obviously, you can
Yeah.
see that, but at the time you're kind of so immersed in it, it's difficult to make the right decision. It's bizarre, isn't it? Really, that team that played in that Trent Bridge test,
Yeah.
which obviously you won to go 2-1 up, has never played together again. And it's
No.
extraordinary, actually, that this also applies to the England rugby team that won the World Cup in 2003 and the
Yeah.
England cricket team that won the 2019 World Cup. None of
Okay.
them, none of those teams have ever played a match together again. It's amazing.
I suppose that team was meant to be at that time, wasn't it?
And
At that
almost
moment in time.
you climbed your Everest,
Yeah.
and the effort required to get there has a big fallout.
Yeah. And like going back to 2005, I started the summer at 95 kilos. At the end, I was like 89. I'd lost 6 kilos just from not sleeping, not eating, just stress. People don't see that side of it, do they? They see you on the field having fun with your mates. But trying to do the normal stuff, you couldn't do. It was all consuming, really.
And I suppose it's why someone like Duncan Fletcher was a successful coach, because I mean, you tell us, but presumably somehow he had an ability to take the stress away. I mean, what was his influence as a coach on you? Why was he so good?
Obviously, yeah, you alluded to it earlier. I first met him at Glamorgan, and I'd obviously never heard of the guy before.
I played against him, actually.
Yeah,
I
okay.
played against him in Zimbabwe, Middlesex
Yeah.
against Zimbabwe, and he was an impressive player, he was.
Was he?
Yeah, he was a very impressive player.
Yeah, I've never seen any footage of him playing.
He was a punchy left-hand opening bat
Mm.
who, a bit like Strauss, quite aggressive puller and cutter, but a good player. And he was a feisty bowler. He bowled.
Oh, was he?
He bowled quite sharp, fast medium, and he hit the bat and swung it. He was good bowler.
I can imagine him being
aggressive
like that,
cricketer.
actually. Yeah, I can imagine.
A lovely
being
guy
like
off the
that.
field. I remember chatting to him. I was only young. I was 21,
Mm.
and I was on this tour, and I was didn't know anything about the game really, but we chatted a bit in having a few beers, and I thought, he's someone he's got this aggressive, hard-nosed mentality on the field, but he's really nice to chat to off the field.
Yeah, and so I first got to meet him briefly during his time at Glamorgan. I didn't have that much to do with him initially, but then obviously he'd seen me bowl, so I think he saw something in me which he liked, and he spent ages with me on my run up, trying to get that right. And then Len Davis, the long jumper, came in, who won gold at the Olympics, so they sorted me out. But he kind of, I think he had an eye for talent because he spotted Trez first, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then he brought him into the fold, and then you saw the player he became. But Fletcher, he had a very calm demeanour. I'd never seen Fletch lose his rag while he was in charge, ever. All right, Vaughan did quite a lot of the talking, but obviously Fletch ran the show, and he'd speak when needed to. But when Dunk spoke, people listened. And I think the biggest thing with Fletch was he noticed the percentages that made big differences. Like I spent some time with him in Zimbabwe on that one-day tour, and he changed my grip from I used to hold the ball like that, and he just made me go there. It changed everything for me. My control was 1,000 times better, and I swung the ball more. And I was just from Fletch watching me in a net session. With batsmen, he'd pick little things in their pickup or their stance, their trigger movements and stuff. He was way ahead of his time, I think, way ahead of his time. And with Glamorgan, he fitted in so well. All right, the Welsh lads are very accommodating and stuff, but at the same time, they can be quite brutal in terms of how they react to an outsider. And let's be honest, he was. He's Zimbabwean. He'd come in. None of us had really heard from him or heard of him. So it would have been a tough kind of change room to crack initially, and he did. And the boys absolutely adore him. If he ever went to Glamorgan now, he'd be welcome with open arms. So I think he was special in a sense. He read situations. He had a good cricket brain on him, and he thought outside the box. That's what made Fletch special.
You know what he's doing now, don't you?
No,
He goes round South Africa filming birds.
does he?
He's,
Oh, fair play to him.
his aim is to. He told me this about a year ago. I had him on my podcast actually, and he's a photographer, obsessive, and he wanted to film every one of the 768 tropical birds that live in South Africa,
No way.
or yeah, I promise you. And he not only South Africa but Mozambique, Namibia. He goes all around. And he was telling the story of with some three mates. They were in the bush in Mozambique, and then suddenly in the middle of nowhere, filming these birds, and then this pack of wild dogs approached, and he said they're really dangerous.
Yeah.
And one guy sort of climbed a tree, and someone said, "Well, the wild dogs can climb trees, so And they just basically, they could have been done on that moment, but apparently one of them stood up and they just relaxed, and eventually they ran off. And somebody got bitten by a snake, and he had to drive them 4 hours to a hospital to get a anti-envenom and stuff. So yeah, that's his life now. Crazy.
It's good to hear he's doing that.
Yeah, he was lovely actually. I'll send him a copy of our interview when we've finished.
Okay.
So just to finish, obviously your experiences have been valuable in your new career. So tell us about your new career in player insurance, if that's how to describe it.
So I work for an independent insurance broker, Kerry London. They're based in London. We do a heck of a lot in cricket. We do a lot with the ECB and the PCA. We do a lot of the player insurances for the franchise tournaments around the world, so they can insure themselves for the amount of money they're being paid. So if they get injured before the tournament or during, after, wherever, not after, but pre and during tournament. But I'd met Dean Calaz, who's my managing director. So I met him at a PCA event, and he said, "What are you up to?" And I was working at a school in Cardiff at the time, a private school, working in the sports sector, just doing the cricket and the football and the rugby. And I was thoroughly enjoying it. But he said, "Right, is that what you want to do long term?" I said, "No, not really. It's just a go between until I find something else." So he said, "Well, let's have a chat." So we got chatting. And they're a general insurance broker, so we do everything: construction, engineering, sport, leisure, media, film, and we don't do income protection or life insurance. So we're a general insurer. The others are for independent financial advisors, etc. So it's such a broad spectrum of opportunity there for me. I was really excited about it because the contacts, as you know, that you make through playing the game, you meet all types of business people, don't you? So I knew loads of people in the construction sector, in law, etc. And so it made perfect sense to me to go and have a chat with Dean. So then I met Imogen, who's the CEO, and I had an interview with him, basically. It was quite a relaxed interview. They asked me what I thought and what I wanted to do, and I spent probably 40 minutes with him in London. And then on the way home, he said, "Yeah, we'd like to offer you a job," and I've been there ever since. So it's great because I'm still involved in cricket in a sense, where the big thing for Kerry London was my story of injury, etc., can be a great story to say to youngsters coming through, or any cricketer or sports, football, rugby, because we do all that as well, of how things can change overnight. So it's a perfect way to sell insurance in a sense, right? You got to protect yourself, your families, your futures by taking out insurances, which will do that. So yeah, I've been there 5 years now, and it's the great company to work for. I'm doing a heck of a lot in construction at the moment. Obviously, the cricket, the 100, we're doing loads. We do the IPL, Big Bash. So because so many of the England cricketers now are going out there, aren't they, to travel the world basically. So yeah, it's interesting, but it's quite rewarding at times as well because those boys are covered. They're not going to lose out on money if they get injured. So it gives you a feel-good feeling.
So
Feel-good factor.
basically, your job is to find players and other clients. But
Mm.
let's talk about cricket for a minute. To find players that may have had a contract with a franchise or whatever for a lot of money, and that they're kind of insuring themselves against loss of earnings,
Yeah,
basically.
so we protect them basically. We protect them against injury, which stops them going to that competition or franchise tournament. So
You
yes,
must have you must have. I mean, I know you can't talk about them, but you must have a lot of clients in cricket then.
yeah. So they'll be our clients in a sense, but I'll always go through the agents, and because you have to do the right protocols and go through the right avenues. And the thing is, because of my background, I know all the agents anyway, so I've got an in and a trust already, and we always will do what's best for the player, and whatever benefits them we will do, and we it's been really, really positive over the last. I've seen a massive increase in uptake in terms of insurance policies for these tournaments, etc. As I've been there over the 5 years, and it's great that the awareness is being seen by the players. They're thinking about it now. Whereas when I was playing, if someone said, "Oh, have you insured yourself against injury?" Well, I've probably got something with ECB, or I've probably got something with Glamorgan without really knowing. Whereas now they're taking it upon themselves, or the agents are looking after the bigger players. But a lot of the players who don't have agents are taking it upon themselves as well. So it's almost like an education, and they're learning to think outside the game of, "Oh, this could go wrong. Where will I be?" So it's working. It's going really well.
So it's great that you're able to help players, be secure in their futures. What about you? Are you okay? Are people looking after you?
Yeah, I'm happy. Kerry London, a great company to work for. As I said, I've been there 5 years now, and it's going well. What's the future hold? I'm just going to carry on as I'm going. Don't try and complicate things. My boys are good. Doing well in what they're doing in college and the one wants to go to uni. So I can't complain at the moment. I'm really happy, and I've caught up with the Ashes boys or five boys a few times this year. I'll see them all throughout the summer now. We're talking about a reunion in September to
Yeah, I've
catch
heard
up
about that. Yeah.
as a group, which would be nice. Just
That's
have
there's a dinner, isn't there? Isn't there a dinner planned or
there's a
something?
couple of dinners this year
Yeah.
where we'll be able to catch up. And as you know, where you played and when you play in any team, if you haven't seen each other for 10 years, when you do see each other, it's like you've never been apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the feeling you get, isn't it? So
Mm.
I'm really looking forward to catching up with the majority of them this summer. It'd be great.
Great. Oh, that'd be lovely. What would you say to England now? They're embarking on a big summer, India at home and then the
Mm.
Ashes away. You've had that experience of beating Australia, which England haven't done very often.
Mm.
What do you say to that current side now, and Stokes and so on? I mean, what's the message from the Jones camp?
Firstly, I think they're in good hands with Baz in charge and obviously Stokesy. Rob Key, I think it was a great appointment a few years back. The big thing is that trio want what's best for England cricket. Some people may disagree with how they approach the game at times, but as long as the players come in with clarity of what they're trying to achieve and the way they're going to go about it, then it's fine. I think that's their kind of way of playing, and it's going to backfire. But then sometimes it's going to go really well. I just think the big thing is preparation for me is leave no stone unturned. Prepare as hard as you can. So then when you go into a game, you're feeling confident. You're not worried about any part of your game. And it's just being thorough with your preparation. And, you get that saying, train hard, play easy. And I always believed in that. There's no worse feeling going into a game and feeling undercooked because you're not confident. And I know this new generation do work extremely hard. So it's about how their mindset going into a game is trying to relax, I think. Don't think about things too much. Back yourself, rely on your skill sets, and the rest will kind of follow, I think.
And it's fun if you win. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun if you win, yeah.
Great. Look, we'll stop because we've been going for ages. I'm sorry if